To welcome you. If there's any chance of making it a little bit louder, I'd appreciate that. I want to welcome you very much because this is the first time that we've had a fringe meeting, and we're very grateful for the TUC to accommodate a fringe meeting organised by Campaign Against Climate Change Trade Union Group. So this is a first, and I think it's a really important first, hopefully not the last, and we can build on the work that we're able to bring out of this meeting. And my name is Suzanne Jeffery, and I am the chair of the Campaign Against Climate Change Trade Union Group. And we've got a reasonably long history, something which I'm incredibly proud of. We've brought together environmentalists who are also trade unionists and trade unionists who are also environmentalists. And we've done so with one very simple premise, that tackling the climate crisis is urgent, and it is not mutually exclusive from delivering on a trade union agenda. In fact, quite the opposite. Jobs and the climate aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, the kind of agenda that trade unions tend to fight for, one that prioritises interests of the working class, the poor, etc., they are precisely the vested interests that are there in tackling climate change, because it is the poor, the working class, etc., that are disproportionately impacted by climate change, and will be increasingly as the climate crisis intensifies. And also I would say that actually within the trade union movement we've got a magnificent tradition of being part and often at the forefront of movements to bring about social change. I think we now need to think about how we put ourselves as trade unionists at the forefront of a struggle for social change on the issue of climate change and all of the things that flow from it. Fundamentally, there are no jobs on a dead planet, so we have to prioritise the issue of tackling climate change. And one final thing that I think that I would say before we start with the excellent platform is that I often feel that when they are kind of counterposed, when jobs and the climate are counterposed, really it's the kind of people that we are spend our lives fighting against. The employers, big business, the corporates, they are the only people that benefit from an acceptance that you can counterpose jobs and tackling the climate crisis. They're not mutually exclusive, and we have to put it at the centre of our work. Some interesting developments on conference floor in the last couple of days, which are worth thinking about how we take forward, and of course this meeting and the work that goes on around it. So, welcome again, I should say, on an unseasonably hot September day that kind of underlines why we're all here. All right, so great platform, absolutely fantastic. Each speaker will take approximately 5 minutes. We will then open up for plenty of time for contributions and questions from the floor. A couple of our speakers need to leave a little bit earlier, by 10 to 7, so if there are direct questions for them, then we'll take them before they have to leave. So please feel that you have every opportunity to engage in this meeting. I think I'll just introduce the speakers as they come up rather than going through the whole platform. So I want to start first of all by introducing Manuel Cortes, General Secretary of the TSSA, and from our perspective also really important contributor to the work that we've done on 1 million climate jobs and that fantastic important publication for trade unions and tackling climate. So Manuel, off you go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Can I start off by saying that I'm delighted to be here with you today, and I'm delighted that I was invited to come and speak, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to come here to this important meeting. You know, I know that some people will be disappointed that our motion, unfortunately, was not carried by conference, but I think that it was a really good debate, and actually that we won a lot of support in the whole, but more importantly that we got a lot of unions to sign up to our vision. I mean, I think what I took from that defeat is that maybe we have to become smarter of how we deal with this issue. And to me, one of the fundamental things that we need to do as a campaign, but also as a movement, is actually to develop what we mean by a just transition. Because I think, you know, we all use the term and we keep using it, but if people are scared that they might lose their jobs, just telling them you're going to have a just transition ain't going to hold water. Because the reality is that whenever there has been any drastic change in the structure of our economy, those people whose skills have become surplus to the economy have ended up on the scrap heap. And we've got a responsibility to build a new vision that says, look, we need to decarbonize, but you do not need to be worried about your future. And I think that we need to urgently start doing that piece of work. We did that pamphlet, it was wonderful. It talks about a vision of how we create 1 million climate jobs. There's quite a lot of detail in some of it, but I think we should be doing something specifically on what we see as a just transition and what the demands of those are. I mean, I think we're living in really exciting times. I've been a socialist all my adult life. I've been in the Labour Party for 31 years for my sins, and it took me 30 years to get a socialist leader of the Labour Party. But that opens a lot of opportunities for us to try and push some of this agenda. Because if people remember, and I'm going back now 20 odd years, you know, when Labour used to have a good policy around, you know, it was at the time of the Cold War, and we had all sorts of industries that were based around the military. I think at the time we were spending over 5% of GDP on military expenditure, and we had this idea that we were going to diversify those jobs to give people some security, and we had a good policy at one point. I mean, it kept being watered down, and eventually, unfortunately, when the Cold War ended, the Tories were in power, and all they did was cut the money, and people lost their jobs. But we need to think in that kind of scale. How are we going to mobilize the resources of the state? Because let's be brutally honest, the market ain't going to deliver this. We need the government to do it. We need to have an intervention that will allow us to do this. How are we going to use the power of the state? It's got a lot of power to make sure that people keep their jobs in this transition. And not only that, I think that it provides opportunities for many new jobs as well. You know, and my view is that in the same way that Britain enjoyed a strategic advantage when it was the first country to industrialize, if we were the first country to decarbonize, we will enjoy that too. Because we will be producing the technologies of tomorrow. We will be producing the kind of things that will not only free us from the damaging effects of carbon emissions, but that will provide good, quality, sustainable jobs for the next few generations. And my view is that this is the price is so good that we need to focus and make sure we deliver it. Look, the fact is that by having that debate in there, although we didn't win, we've opened up this discussion. You know, many colleagues who were in unions who opposed the motion yesterday were still coming up to me after and having discussions with me. You know, what can we do? I think people understand that we have to do something about climate change. You know, this is not some risk that is somewhere out there that is never going to hit us. Actually, it's already hitting us, but the day when we could have runaway climate change gets nearer by the second. And unless we do something, and it has to be industrial, we cannot be bold. I think when we did that pamphlet, we talked about what happened in this country after the Second World War, where we created a national health service. We didn't go and tinker around the edges, we just went and did something completely new, and something that was very comprehensive. And we need to tackle the climate crisis with the same urgency that we tackled creating a health service for all the people of our country after the Second World War. And that's what we need to do. How do we do that? Well, this campaign is great, but we need to broaden our appeal. And that's why I'm saying that, yeah, there's one issue where if we're going to win the labour movement, and particularly the trade unions that we couldn't win in the hall 2 days ago, if we're going to win that, the only way we're going to do that is by having a very clear plan of what a just transition means. And my view is, and I'm going to finish with that because I'm becoming close to my 5 minutes, my view is that is the task at hand, that is what we need to do now. You know, we've had that debate, we've opened it up. It's been a long time since we've had anything like that on the floor of that conference. I thought we had quite a comprehensive motion. Could it be improved? Yeah, you can always improve things. But I thought it was quite good. It tackled all the main threats that need to be tackled. And I think, you know, Fliss did a great job moving in yesterday. And Tony, you know, when he made the point that you cannot decarbonize without tackling aviation. You know, it can't be done. And I think we have to be honest with people. But what we need to tell people in equal measure is that they themselves are not going to be victims as we decarbonize. I'll leave it on that. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Manuel. And it's not